Okay guys, I just wanted to show you the progress on Hogwarts Express. I'm going to show you how I modified the engine so that it would pull. And as you can see, I'm pulling the regular car, plus I'm pulling two of the Emerald Knight cars. I'll be doing this in a couple different sections, so 1 second and I'll show you how this was done. Okay. The first thing is, the only thing that does not look stock is the passenger car. What I did with this is that I tried to keep it as stock as possible in its appearance. I ended up extending the car itself by 2 studs, and I ended up doing that right here. I did 1 stud, 1 row of 1x3 bricks, or 1x1 bricks, 3 on each set of windows, and in the back you can see the eye there. I thought that was kind of funny. And then I had to extend this, but what I ended up using is I ended up using a chassis plate that was 4 studs longer than the original car. So in order to hide this a little bit, I just used a 1x1 tile. And then everything else is basically a drop-in fit. You can see where I just took the battery out, and it locks in here and here. So that was basically the only thing I really had to do with this, and it worked out great. Okay, what I was going to show you before I pushed it out of the way is that in the car itself, when the battery's in there, the little service cart that they have works out just perfect in here. See if I can get it focused in real good. So it worked out so that everything fit in there nice and snug. So that one's off to the side. Now, the tender. The tender is built identical. I didn't change anything on the bottom. I built it just the way it was. The only thing that I did do is, instead of doing the bumper pieces that they used where they lock it together with a 1x3 tecnico lift arm, I just used the magnets, train magnets, and then I added a 1x1 plate on each part on the inside, a 1x6, put a 2x4, and I put the infrared receiver into it. And the reason why I did the 1x6s and the 2x4s is it leaves me a little gap. And then on the front, what I use is I used a 4x4 plate, and when I put that in there, I can run the motor wire from the engine directly in. It locks down, leaves the same little gap, and therefore that was just that. Now comes to the engine. Now the engine is a little bit more, there's a lot going on to make this thing work the way that we needed to make it work. Okay, I've deconstructed the engine, and for the most part I try to keep it as stock as possible as far as everything on this. So the outside appearance all looks stock. To start out with, I'm going to go to and show you what I did eliminate. There was a large red plate that went between, that was on the tender, the back of the engine near the tender, that went forward into the middle of the chassis. I swapped that around so that the 1x6, sorry for the video is being very poor, the 6 long plate, the 4x6 is in the back. You can see it here in the video. See, and then I ran a 1x6 plate across the center of that. So I'm now at 5 studs, and these, I'm using these in the earth orange, but they will be in black when I'm done with these. And it's going to, that's the only thing that you're probably going to notice, is you're going to have this little appearance, and it doesn't really look that bad. I don't know if they make that in red or not. I added 2x2 corner plates underneath that and attached that like you would normally attach everything from the back of the train. The next thing is the chassis where the wheels attach. If you notice, I put the red rubber bands, that's giving traction. I used the little differential gears, used the 6 long axle studs front and rear. The one in the middle, I used a 7 long. And if you look on the bottom side, when I got done, there's a 1x4 Technic brick, and then these are 4x4 Technic bricks. It's like these, and if you try to get them in black, they're about $4 or $5 a piece on Bricklink. I used a yellow one to show the size and show what I was using, and then the gray in the back. I'm going to switch it back out for the gray one, using the red Tecnico rings on the wheels, which I'll put that back on there. The next thing is the gear that goes above the little tooth gear right here is going to be a fat gear. And I'm using a Technic axle that has the stop on the end. I'm using 3 spacers, 2 large and a narrow. The 1x2 Technic bricks. One goes in the front, one goes in the rear. Whoops, I should put that. I'm trying to do this in the same time. And then the other one that I dropped. Sorry for the video being everywhere. Okay, put that on. The next thing is I'm going to use another set of Technic. And this is going to be the 1x1, 1x4, same setup, just using the yellow gear just to show you the size difference. I'm going to put that on to hold that. And before I put this on, I need to put on the part that holds the Technic connector for the axle on the side. The push rods go back and forth using a 1x4 and a 1x3. I'm using these in different colors at the present moment. And then I'm taking the 1x10, I believe it is, plate, and I'm adding a 1x1 plate on the bottom of it. Nope, it's not focusing. I'm too close to the camera. So I'm doing that 2 times. Got that on. Next thing you'll be taking is a 1x4 Technic brick and putting that right on the end. Okay, so I've added the push rods, push rod holders, and all this together. Put the Technic 1x4 brick back on it, and this will roll very, very easily if you press it all together. So everything will move back and forth. Sorry for my arm jumping in there. Or if you can pick it up, you can just roll this very easily. You can see how the push rods are moving around. It's just very, very smooth. Just pinch it together very, very well. Okay, the next thing that you're going to want is you're going to want to use a tan or light gray Technic pin that has the axle piece holder on it. And you're going to use another one of these little fat gears on it. And this is going to go right on top. Right here. And with this, you should be able to easily roll this and make everything move. If I had it up off the table, it would be a little bit easier. Okay, I've added back in the front wheel assembly holder and the front wheel assembly, and that's all stock. I didn't change anything there. It's in the same same location. Now the next part is where it gets a little bit more tricky. The front piece that has the part that flops down so you can lock your steering into straight position or pull it up so that you can actually have steering on your train. All this is the same until you get to where you see I have these 1x2s. I took out the 2x4 plate that was back here and I put in 2x2 corner plate. I left the black plate alone. I moved the 2 bricks that were 1x2s with the 2 studs on each side that were inside the engine boiler assembly. You can see there used to be 2 other bricks that there were 2x2 bricks or like 2x 2/3 bricks that had the 4 studs on them. I took those out and I'm just using a common off the pick-a-brick wall, a 1x2 with 2 studs on each side. I can pop that apart and show that to you. It's not that big of a deal. It's this piece right here. Okay, back to the bottom of this chassis. Directly underneath the middle hump, you'll put a 2x4 plate and line that up with your black plate, the 1x2 plates, and you'll need to leave this area open because you're going to need this area for the clearance of this gear. You'll see what I'm talking about once you start fitting this together. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this plate assembly back in position. Okay, now that I have the assembly back on the top of the wheel assembly, you're just going to basically lift the black plate up that has these arches on there, and you're going to take this piece where you're going to have the corner plates, and you're going to put this up underneath here, and you're going to lock it down on the chassis. And then once you're done with that, you're going to push these back down into position. And now we're going to take the boiler assembly piece and we're going to put that back in its stock location, and you can lock that right in. And then once that's in position, whoops, I'm one stud too far back. Trying to do this and watch this through the screen is kind of funny. So please forgive me for this. This is my first video, and my son's going to give me a hand. Okay, now that we have that back in position, now you can see why I have that gap opening right there. That way it won't hit the gear and it will be free rolling, so on and so forth. Okay, the next thing is we want to put in the motor. And the motor consists of a little assembly. You're going to, like I say, I'm using gears that are different so you can see what I'm actually doing. I'm using a 3 long gray axle. I'm using a 1x4 red, and it needs to be red because it's going to actually be the sides of the tender of the boiler area. You're going to use 1x1 bricks right beside the gray, one on each side. And then when we put these back in, it's going to be a 1x1 brick with 2 red 1x1 plates. And those will go in to this little area right up here. Whoops, right up here next to the gear. We're going to put one on each side. Okay, now that we've got those in place, we're going to take the motor with the 1x4 plate, and we're going to put this right on top. And make sure that when you put this in that you're not binding on that gear down below. And the motor will sit on the back of this. And I just added a 2x3 red plate for it to sit on. So when this gets all pushed together, and I'm not binding on a... Okay, on top of where we had the 1x4 Technic brick and the 2 corner plates, we're going to put a 2x4 brick. Now, I actually just used 2 2x2s, but you can use a 2x4. You just want to try to make it look solid. And then a 1x2 red plate, and that's going to fit right directly underneath the gray that's sticking out from the back of the boiler. And that will go right here. Now, here's the thing that I'm not proud of, but I had to do it. And the only reason why I did this is because A, I have a ton of these window frames, and it's the 2x4 by 3 tall window frame. And I'll show you what that thing looks like. It looks just like this. Now, if you notice, I'm covering my thumbs up, and you just saw a little sneak peek. What I did is, I know some people are going to harp on me on this, but I actually have this panel coming in, and it hasn't been made in a long time, in red. It's a 1x2 by 3 tall panel with open studs. They are available. There is none of them that are used available on Bricklink. So what I did is I just trimmed off the middle section, the be a 2x2 area, and that's actually going to go right over the motor. Whoops. That's going to go right over the motor, and it's going to lock into position. And we're going to put that on. Now you can see why I did that. This will give me the side panels, because what Lego did on this is they used a 1x4 by 2 tall panel and then put a 1x4 brick on it. Well, that's 3 tall. So once that's done, we can take the top of the boiler piece, and that goes right into place. And then sitting right on top of that is the 2x2 with the 2 gold studs. And then we have the side panels, which are identical. This one goes on the other side with a little jumper on the top. The other one, which goes on this side, and it lines right up like so. And then you can take your roof piece. That sits right on top as well. And then last but not least, we want to put in the little trim pieces, you know, the rod, 6.5 long rods, and whoops, and I'm knocking it apart in little hump pieces. And this is where you're going to see this. Now, you can get these in black. I have them at the shop. I just didn't do it in here because I wanted to show some differences, but they will be on here next time you see this thing. Okay, got it all back together. As you can see, totally stock appearance. Some of the other people that are putting the train power function motor up underneath the tender, they have to extend the tender. Yes, I extended the car, but I wanted to keep the tender as close to stock looking as possible. Everything's back together, looks totally stock, nothing out of the ordinary, everything's there. Whoops, I just noticed that something's not on the top of mine. Now, to put it back on the track, make it run again. We're going to run the wire underneath through that little hole right there and plug it into the blue. I'm using the blue of the infrared receiver, and then we're going to run the battery through the doorway. Now what I did do on the doorway, and I should show you this, is that they had a plate on the top of this. I don't know why you're not focusing. They had a plate on the top of this. There we go. They had a plate on the top of this. It was a 2x4 plate. I put the 2x4 plate down here at the bottom and moved it from the top. That way it gave me a little gap that I can put my power function wire through and connect to my rechargeable battery. Okay, I've got everything back together. I got my battery in here connected with my wire that runs up to the infrared receiver on the tender, the wire that runs from the engine to the motor. I just gave it a little sag. I thought it looked good. Now, to test, turn the power on, take my handy dandy remote, and I am going to turn this on, and away it goes. As you can tell, it runs just fine. Okay, everything's back up and running. As you can tell, it's running at a pretty good clip. I can slow it down, and it runs at different speeds. It runs real slow. Everything runs really smooth on it. I can back it up. Now you can change the gearing on this if you want to. Instead of using the big gears, you can use the little gears for the first one. You're going to lose some of your pulling power if you're just going to run this train, and it will run quite much faster. But on this table, this ring will slide around with it on because it kind of throws the train around. So until then, happy motoring. I'd love to see a lot more of these out there running around, because I've been told many times that it can't be done. Well, a little bit of ingenuity, anything can be done. Until then, catch you next time. Any questions? Contact us through our Facebook, The Brick University, or go to thebrickuniversity.com.